and welcome to All That Matters, a family life program sponsored by the Coconut Grove Seventh-day Adventist Church. We are your hosts,
Thomas George
and Marilyn George. The objective of All That Matters is to equip our audience on how to manage various family dynamics, and the lessons will be derived from the experiences of our guests. Today we have with us Mr. and Mrs. Wallace, all the way from the beautiful island of Jamaica. Welcome, guys, to All That Matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we are going to start for the listening pleasure of our audience. Please tell us a little more about yourself.
Well, I am Shanika Smith Wallace. I am 31 years old. We have been married for almost 9 years, and it has been a very, very good journey.
Very nice. And what about you, sir?
I'm Romando Wallace. As Shanika would have said, we've been married for almost 9 beautiful years, and we look forward to more going forward. I've been a member of the Mount Carey Seventh-day Adventist Church since 1996, a baptized member. So I've been going at it for quite some time now. Shanika is a bit younger in the faith, but I can tell you she's just as strong as I am.
So, since you have been married for so long, 9 long years, can you tell us what is the secret? What keeps you guys going for so long?
Well, it is just having God in the midst of everything, mixed with a lot of communication, because that is very, very essential. If it is that you want a healthy marriage, you must communicate.
And I think one of the key things, in addition to communication, is compromise. Without compromise, believe me, you'll get nowhere, because no two individuals are alike.
I tell you.
So going into a marriage, you have to first have the understanding that you're two different persons, you'll have two different opinions, etc.
Right.
And is it easy to communicate with each other? Do you find it challenging?
At times, to be honest.
Yes.
But as time progresses, then you begin to decipher what to say, what not to say, when not to say.
Or how to say.
You know, how to say is critical as well.
Okay, so with that said, then tell what is the love language of each other? Have you discovered that?
Wow, that's a heavy one.
Yes, it's a bit different. I guess sometimes the time or the environment may change how each other speaks, but over time you will get to understand each other and to pick up cues, you know, from each other, and you move along. It is always a learning experience, though, because you will never know it all, because, you know, persons may change.
Okay.
And so you have to make adjustments. You can't just say, okay, this is it. And you have to constantly be learning your partner. It's a lifelong journey together, and you always have to be learning each other and making adjustments.
How did you guys meet?
You want it? He likes to tell that story.
Well, I like to tell that story. I'll try to summarize it as best as possible. We met just after I left high school. I love singing. And I was then the vice president of the choir at my community college, and Shanika at that time came in for an audition. And I mean, I don't want to preempt the interview, but, you know, she stepped through the door, and, you know, right there and then, I've always heard, I was young, but I can tell persons out there now, there are certain things you will know. There are certain things that will just stick out immediately. And she stood out. As things progressed, the interactions moved outside of the choir. We would sit in the mornings, we'd go to school early just so we can see each other. And, you know, we'd have lunch together. Whatever time we could find, we would talk. And mind you, we were just friends at that time, because I had another friend, if you know what I mean, that I was interested in at that time.
Okay.
But we, you know, became really close friends. When we got to university now, I don't want to say drifted apart a little bit, but there was some distance in between us. And we weren't that close as we were when we were in the community college. But then, what, 2 years later, I was at work because I was a year ahead of Shanika. I was at work one day and, we were talking. Some Sundays we spoke for like 3-4 hours. And this particular day we were talking, and I think it was Shanika who made the step and said, can we go for lunch? I was supposed to meet my mother and my brother. And so all of us got together at the same time. And my mother was like, oh, is this girl? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's the same person. So our first official date at that point was at KFC. Right. So we got to KFC and, we were there and we started talking and it was like back in the old, it was as if we knew each other for years. And I'm a fanatic when it comes on to cars. So there's this little motor event that I'd go to on the weekends. And I was there one Sunday and I was speaking to her and we're talking and I just went out there and I said, listen, I want to give this thing a try. Are you on board? And she said, well, that's kind of sudden. You have to give me a little bit of time. And the call didn't take long to come back. And she was like, all right, we're going to go at it. And we started from there.
We're here.
The marriage didn't take long, partially because we knew each other so well. And we were just in a not for any particular reason outside of just wanting to be with each other. And we started, in March of 2011, we started going out officially. And by round about August, September, we're like, we're going to get married. And we're not going any fancy thing, no fancy dinner, no fancy engagement. We're just going to get married. And she called her mother, because her mother resides in Georgia. And her mother had already used up all her vacation for that year. So she said, well, if you guys are going to go at it now, I will be missing. So we said, all right, when are you going to get here again? We'll wait on you. So she usually comes in March. And so we decided March 25th would have been the date. And March 25th, 2012,
What's the date?
So here's a question. It sounds like you were love struck from the moment your first encounter. Is that what it was for you, Romando? And also
for me,
yes,
for me it was.
For him it was.
Okay. What about you?
I liked him, but I was a little bit more on the reserve side.
Okay.
So to be honest, I don't think I was as love struck as he was, but I was very interested.
Okay, very nice.
So
She might not tell you, but she's very calculated, as am I. And she'll tell me, I don't know if she's afraid to tell you, but she'll tell me, listen, I didn't want to be somebody else's rebound or somebody who was responsible for breaking up somebody's relationship. So she kind of took a step back.
Okay.
Why she wasn't as caught up as I was. But you could say I was struck.
Okay.
If there's a stronger word, you could use that as well.
So she was aware of that other relationship that you were in. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, she
Right,
was.
eventually, yes, because
Okay.
we would talk and we had very open communication. So I knew.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
now you said that the marriage didn't take too long because you knew each other. Have you developed complete trust in each other? Or when did you develop complete trust in each other?
All right. Complete trust is something that takes time to come. And so I wouldn't tell you that it was before we got married, but I'm this type of person where, you see, once you put your mind to it and your goals are aligned, then it can work, right? Especially with God in the midst. And so I wouldn't tell you that I completely trusted him before we got married and started, living together and started understanding each other. But that there wasn't complete trust. There was trust, but it wasn't complete. It is now when you get into the marriage and you've gotten to learn that it makes no sense you not trust this person because he's so open with everything. Because being calculated, sometimes you have that little radar of wandering. But when you have wandered so much and you can't see anything else, might as well you trust. And that is basically what happens. Right now, our relationship is very open. Persons may not understand us. I mean, my phone can ring, he answers. He knows how to get into everything for me. He knows my salary. He knows everything about me, literally. And so we're that open, and that is one of the things that helps to foster this trust, because I realized that he was so open with me and I with him. We didn't need to close anything. And so there's no option now but to give complete trust to this person.
So therefore, knowing that you are married now to each other, right? Is there something you wish you had known about each other before you all committed to each other?
You wish you had known I was miserable?
Something. You tell us, because you know, through marriage, true colors start coming out. So you're showing. So
right. He knows I'm a little miserable, and I'll admit to that, but it's not in no detrimental way, you know.
I've always been quite a laid back person to some extent, and we went the whole 9 yards, even though it was, you know, somewhat speedy. We did our counseling, we went through all the sessions with pastor and so forth. And so, you know, one of the things he said to us, he was saying to us, you know, you think you know her now, or Shanika, you think you know him now, but I can tell you from experience, not just being your pastor, it is going to take you, and I think he quoted 18 months. He says at 18 months, the real you starts to come out. And it struck us, and I was like, how could that be possible? I know it would take some time for us to get really acquainted, because if you, Sister George, you know, you're going to try to put out your best. You're going to show Brother George your best. And it's not that you're being hypocritical, but you're going to make an extra effort, as is with everybody. So I know we would have been, you know, putting out our best, because sometimes Shanika would say to me, like, I can be well spoken, or I can go in our local dialect, and you know, and sometimes she'll be like, boy, I want to date you again, you know, because
he was dating him, it was proper
all
English, and sometimes he feels like he can get down and talk.
But you know, it really takes some time for the real person in that sense to really come out, for the buds to start pushing their heads out. And so, you know, it takes some time, but for me, no, I have no regrets. I have no regrets. It's just a work in progress.
Very nice.
So if you were to recommit yourself to each other, would you?
Yes.
Yes.
No
and
doubt.
we have.
Okay. Sounds almost like the perfect marriage, but I need to ask this question here, okay? Is there a character flaw that you are not pleased with, that you're still working on with each other? Is there a character flaw that you do not like?
All right, let me put it this way. I believe sometimes he's a bit reserved. We communicate a lot, but sometimes he's a bit reserved, and I'll explain it to you. This, you know, women and men are different, and we have to learn to appreciate each other for who they are. Now, women are like this. We want to talk about everything and keep talking about it. And we talk about it and never stop talking about it until we're satisfied.
Right.
Now, men are a bit different. They'll talk about it, but they want to finish quick. And sometimes we don't think that when they are ready to finish, we are halfway through. So sometimes now he's a bit reserved and want to stop it right there. And I'm like, you need to listen and us go on. So that is just a little thing sometimes, but I've learned how to work with it. And I know it's because we're different. And I'm sure he has known how to adjust to me. So yeah, that's just a little thing. How we work on it is just basically, okay, him stop talking and I talk, and then when I'm finished, done. Because he was finished, but he listens. So that's one way how we get to work on that.
Okay.
Otherwise,
okay. So what about you, Romando? She basically spoke of you. So let's hear your here.
Well, for me, her flaw is a strength. And I say this to say, she is very, very determined in whatever she's doing. And as I said before, I keep saying she's very calculated. She reads into everything So sometimes being men, we're pretty straight lined. We'll just say something and, you know, her being a female, she wants to delve into it. So she'll ask questions, and sometimes the questions really, you know, I wouldn't say aggravate me, but I'm like, I'm saying, all right, I thought we were over this. And sometimes I genuinely don't have an answer
Right.
at that moment, but she will ask me for an answer. And then from time, because let me put it out there for those that are listening, the younger persons, you know, coming up. You are going to have times when, as we Jamaicans would say, teeth and tongue are going to meet.
We have conflict.
We're going to have conflicts.
Okay.
That's inevitable. You're two different persons. But what is important is how you deal with it. That is what is key. So in dealing with this, and we employ this kind of strategy where, you know, the Bible tells us that we mustn't let the sun go down on our wrath.
Right.
And we try as best as possible. So I can tell you there are times when we have been up until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because that is the time when we decided to hash things out. Because we had a little disagreement earlier on in the evening, and both of us are like sitting there in the bed. You know, we're still beside each other,
Right.
talking to each other, but a little tension is there. And then at 2 o'clock, we're like, you know, I'm not going to go to sleep until we get this out of the way. And then
Yes.
2, 3 o'clock, we have a vibrant discussion. And then at 4 o'clock, when everything is okay again, bam, there comes 5 o'clock. We need to get ready for work again.
Okay.
So, as I said, her strength is in the context of the marriage, her being so strong-headed, you know,
It is
that would be what
Yeah.
I say is the flaw. But outside of the marriage, that is a strength that she has, because she gets things done by, you know, querying everything. Nothing misses her really.
okay.
So since we are on this topic, over
Yes.
these 9 long years, what have you really learned to appreciate about each other?
Other than just what you just described, because you speak like her flaw, you even appreciate her
Yes.
flaw, right? But what else do you appreciate about
Each
each other? And we're gonna end the segment with this question.
Well, for me, I tell people this every time, and it comes out in Shanika with being around anybody, not only in the marriage. My wife is one of the most willing persons in the world, and I say that with no reservation. If you need assistance, unless she is not able to, then you won't get it. But once she can assist you, rest assured, help is on its way.
Mhm.
And I really, really, really appreciate that.
Very nice. What about you, Shanika?
I appreciate how caring he is. He's selfless. He will put himself out there for me, and I really appreciate that about him, because it shows me that he really, really cares, and I appreciate it so much about him.
Very nice, very nice. So we will take a break and we'll be right back. And our next segment will be How Well Do You Know Me?
All right.
All right.
Here's today's question. My wife is a home health aide and only comes home on weekends, but she doesn't want to make love to me on the Sabbath, saying it's my pleasure, not God's. Is it wrong to make love to my wife on the Sabbath?
Hi, my name is Jim Davis. I would like to talk to you for a little bit on the subject of marriage, in particular, the subject of sex in marriage. In doing so, I would like to share with you 2 passages of scripture from the New Testament. The first one is found in the book of Hebrews, Hebrews chapter 13, and it is verse 4. Hebrews 13 and verse 4, and I'm reading from what is called the English Standard Version. It says, "Let the marriage be held in high honor among all. Let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous." So let the marriage be held in high honor. Let the marriage bed be undefiled, because God will judge the person who steps out of the marriage relationship into something else, or steps out of his or her marriage relationship into another relationship. The second passage I want to read for you is found in 1 Corinthians. It says 1 Corinthians chapter 7, and I am going to read a few verses in this particular passage. It says, now, begin at verse 1, now concerning the matter about which you wrote, it is good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman, because of the temptation of sexual immorality. However, each man should have his own wife, each woman her own husband. The husband should give his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, don't smile too quickly. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but his wife does. Then verse 5 says, do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a limited time, that you may devote yourself to prayer, but then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. Now, some of you are Christians, and sometimes as Christians, like anyone else in the society, we sometimes work away from home for a week. During the week, the husband is gone all week, or the wife is gone all week, and that individual does not come home again until Friday evening. Now, if you're the husband left at home, you are anticipating the arrival of your wife so that, you can kiss on your wife and you can do all the things that husbands and wives do. If you are the wife left at home, I am assuming that you are dreaming of the very same thing. If you are the husband or wife who is gone, maybe that is on your mind and you're dreaming of it just the same. Now, for some individuals, they have this idea that sexual relationships are things that should be kept outside of what they consider Sabbath hours. Now, I want to remind you what Hebrews 13 says, that marriage is holy, and the marriage bed, when the two people in the marriage engage in sexual activities in their marriage bed, the bed is undefiled. Now, if marriage is holy and the Sabbath is holy, then ask yourself the question, what is so wrong with sexual relationship in marriage on the Sabbath or on a Friday evening? Now, if you notice what Paul says in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, it is that when you're married, the husband should not keep the activity from his wife, and neither should the wife from the husband, except that they do so by consent. And if you're like me, then you like what Paul says, the man does not have control over his own body, and neither does the wife have control over her body. So the body belongs to the husband, the body belongs to the wife, and so there must be agreement if you're going to keep sexual activity out of the relationship. Now, some people will say to me, well, there is a scripture in the Old Testament, Isaiah to be exact, in chapter 58, talks about not doing your own things and having your own pleasure on the Sabbath day. And so people have equated sexual relationship between husband and wife as having your own pleasure on the Sabbath day, and so therefore they figure the Bible speaks against it. What I want to say to you today is that if you go back to the book of Isaiah, you will realize that in the book of Isaiah that a lot of things are going on here in chapter number 58. A lot of things are going on here, and the chapter is talking about oppression and these kinds of things, people desecrating the Sabbath for their own financial gain. You'll realize that it has nothing to do with any sexual relationship between a husband and a wife. As a matter of fact, as far as I know, there are no passages of scripture that dictate when a husband can have sexual relationship with his wife or a wife can with her husband. The only thing that I know the Old Testament talks about is that time of the month month when the woman is having a certain visitation. But there are no scriptures, there are no biblical foundations to say that a husband and wife cannot have sexual relationships on a Sabbath. If you are able to find one, please share it with me. But from my study of the Bible, from my reading through the Bible several times, I've never come across anything where the Bible says that it was inappropriate for a husband and wife to engage in sexual activity on the Sabbath day. God bless you. This is Pastor Jim. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to All That Matters. We have Shanika and Romado from the beautiful island of Jamaica, and we are going to find out how well do they really know each other.
All right. And for the next, or for the first question, you just write it down on the paper and show it to us so we can know how well you know each other. The first question is, who is the best driver among the two? Let's see the answer. Okay. How about? Oh, wow.
Okay. This question is for you, Shanika. What was his favorite toy as a kid? What was his favorite toy as a kid?
She wouldn't know that because...
Well, let's find out if they've been talking about such things. And you should wrap.
All right.
Well, what's your answer?
Well, I didn't write it, but I can tell you, I was in love with my bicycle.
Okay.
All right. So far, 2 out of 2. Very good. What is her favorite dish?
Write
it down and write your answer also. So far, 2 out of 2.
You can show us. Go ahead. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
3 out of 3.
All right. So I'm sure you guys have been talking about that. Let us find out. Let us confirm. Expenses paid. All expense paid, right? What would you like to do, or where would you like to go? Where in the world would you like to go? All expenses paid.
No.
Let's see.
Well, for me, it was a bit tricky because I know at one point she wanted to become a flight attendant solely so she could travel the world. So my answer is she would love to travel the world.
Okay, okay.
For him, he wants to go to so many places in Europe. And he wants to go to Dubai, so I just put that because it would be a list.
Very good. So, who is the most spiritual in the house? Who always calls up for family worship and for prayer, etc.? What is it? 4 out of 4 so far?
Yeah, they've been doing very well.
All right.
Okay. Very,
very good.
Very nice.
5 out of 5?
Yeah. Let's do a few more. Let's do a few more. What is the most boring thing about him?
Oh, all right. We got that.
It's to take pictures and go in.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
You agree with that answer, Ramada?
Yes, I do.
Very good.
Yeah.
All the photos of me are on her phone, not mine.
Okay.
All right. This next one is, when was the last time you said I love you to each other?
Pardon
Go
me?
again?
When was the last time you said I love you to each other.
You're out of paper?
Yes, I think I'm out of paper. Hold on.
Use the same one. Just use at the back.
Yes. Okay.
All right. You get that?
Yes. Okay.
All right. Very good.
All right.
Very good.
All right. Maybe it was just a little before midnight. Please answer. All right. Here's the next one. We're gonna do two more questions. Okay. What was for breakfast on your honeymoon? The first morning of your honeymoon, what was for breakfast? Orange juice, scrambled eggs, and a little higher.
Fruits.
Fruits.
Oh, fruit.
Okay.
Can't remember exactly, but it had eggs and pancakes.
Okay. That's close enough.
Close enough. Yes,
Yeah.
close enough.
Okay, and here's the last one. What famous person would you like to meet? So you write hers, she writes yours. What famous person would you like to meet? Oh, okay. Two of my favorite too.
We got it.
Don't remember his name, but he sings the song Hello. Is it me you're looking for?
Oh, is that Lionel Richie?
Lionel Richie.
Oh, very nice, very nice, very nice. Okay, so what can you say about the performance here?
Very good. 7 out of 8. Very good.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful.
Yes.
So thank you guys for joining us in this segment of How Well Do You Know Me? Very good.
I have to ask you this question. I know you said 9 years is not long, it's short. But during this period of time, has there been any occasions where one of you had to sleep in another room because there was some kind of misunderstanding or something?
No, we're not sleeping in any other room. No, that's not that option.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay up, and if you want to sleep, you're not gonna sleep, because the moment you seem like you want to sleep, we're gonna start talking. We must talk about it, because initially, I must admit, you see, when we just got together, I would shut down. So like certain things happen, and if I feel like we're gonna be talking back to each other, like it sounds like an argument, like we're just, what you call, back and forthing with each other, I would just shut down, because I said, oh, I don't want to argue, and I just shut down and not talk about it.
Right.
And he was very consistent with saying, look, for this marriage to work, we need to be able to communicate effectively. And so then I start talking about everything. Probably I talk too much too.
Wow, so you have learned that.
I have learned.
Right?
I've seen where it helps.
Okay. And I'm going to ask two questions which you guys have alluded to. Honestly, I can even guess the answers, right? About money management, I'm already guessing the answer is yes. When did my money become our money? Was it like 5 years into the relationship, or the very first time when you guys got together, you came to that conclusion that it will be our money, not your money or her money?
Immediately as we got married, it is our tithe, our money, our expenses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So basically, before we got married and throughout the counseling and everything, we did the counseling officially, but we knew before that what we wanted. And so a lot of the material we covered in counseling, it was very easy because these were things that we discussed. We talk a lot to each other, like we were saying, and we were discussing to say, look, let's see if we're on the same page. This is how I want things to be. This is how, this is how we're gonna do it. I am in the financial industry, so budgeting means a lot to me. We budget a lot and we stick to it. And if there are instances where we need to go outside to do other things, we communicate and everything. I can personally tell you, don't call my husband to borrow any money or make any financial decisions when I'm not there, because he's going to tell you, I'll call you back. And he's going to call me, and likewise, don't ask me to make any decisions on our money by myself. I would now need to discuss it with my husband, and we see, okay, is this something that is beneficial to us? Will it help us to grow? Or we make that decision together, because at the end of the day, whatever decision is made will impact the lives of both of us. And so I cannot make it on my own.
And we will be right back.
Okay.
All right.
Welcome back to All That Matters, and our guest again today is Mr. and Mrs. Wallace.
Very well. Next question is for both of you. What has been the greatest obstacle you have faced in your marriage? The greatest obstacle you have faced in your marriage. You know, my wife and I, we have been married for 20 years now, and we have faced a lot of them. So what has been your greatest one?
That warrants some thinking. We're still pretty young. I mean, for me, probably my husband could tell you, I kind of live my life telling myself we have no real problems. That is just our thing. So, I mean, sometimes we may have what other persons would term to be like a big obstacle, but for me, I always use them. We use them as learning experiences, and so probably if you ask me, I'll be like, we don't have no real problems. It's just little issues thereabouts. So right now, I really, really need to be thinking now to see.
Okay.
For me, it's a bit easier, but when it goes back to her line of thinking, saying we don't really have any issues, I can recall getting my first job. I was there for 6 years, and in year 6, round about that time, we were pregnant, we were expecting, and I lost my job in the February of 2016, under some questionable circumstances, but regardless, I had lost my job. So there we were, expecting, not much in the kitty as yet, you know, because you're just starting out, you know, you want to acquire something. So all the money just kept going into acquiring a few stuff for the family. She was the only one that was working. And I tried to get jobs. Nothing was Those who didn't want more experience were not paying anything or next to nothing. And that was a real struggle, but we kept telling ourselves, Shanika kept telling me, listen, whatever it is that we have, we're going to make it work. And as we'd say in Jamaica, I don't know how much of our dialect you know. She was like, you're not hungry. The simple means you're not going to go hungry. Comes what may.
Right.
Right. It took a toll on not only my immediate family, but we're closely knit, myself and Shanika, to the extended family. My parents love her, I would say probably even more than me. And that's the truth. She can get away with some things with my dad that it's not the same for me.
Right.
So and my dad is a tough guy, but he's really soft when it comes on to people in his family. And it took a real toll on them. And, you know, way down when things started to dwindle, because I know anything can happen. So, you know, during the time frame, you know, you're putting a little bit away as savings for rainy days just like this. So, you know, something was there as a buffer. But then when it started to dwindle down, then it started to take a toll. And then the baby was born, and you know, a newborn takes a lot of money because they go through diapers, formula, and everything. The clothes, today it fits, tomorrow it doesn't fit. So, you know, Jared was eating up our funds, but I mean, to God be the glory. We're still here.
And let me tell you too, honestly, I didn't even remember about that. In my mind, we still didn't have any real problems because as far as I was concerned, we were fine. God was bringing us through. But the issue is there. And I mean, a part of it that you would have to deal with is probably what affected me most is how my husband took it, because whether or not we want to admit, men have a little ego. They want to know that, okay, I am providing for my family. When you're a provider and then your supply cuts off, it kind of affects you in a certain way. So I know that it was affecting him personally, but to say the relationship, it didn't. I mean, my husband and I, we do everything together. We have never tied separately. And even when he wasn't working, it doesn't mean that it's going to be my name that goes on the envelope. Nobody would ever know that he's not working. Everything was in order, just the same. And so whatever I was able to do, it is for us. That's the way I look at it. And so whilst that was a little challenge, I don't believe that it was a major setback for us. I don't believe that we were any less off, but I still want to acknowledge that it affected him probably, you know, a little mentally, or, you know, when you sit and think about it, men go through that. They want to know that, okay, they're independent a certain way, and that, you know, you'll have to deal with that. But I think we did pretty well to get through that time. And thank God he has never left us. And we just want to give him all the thanks we can, because he's always there for us and we're always so thankful.
Okay, let's talk about intimacy. You guys are a young couple. You guys are gainfully employed. You do see other women when you go to work. You see other men when you go to work. What helps to keep you faithful in your relationship?
Well, for me, it is important that you be real first and foremost, because then if you're not real, you can get caught off guard.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Right, I'm going into it. Okay. We tell each other, I'm saying, Shanika, listen, I'm your husband. It doesn't mean that there are not other guys out there, and that guy might have a feature that I don't have physically. And naturally, you are going to see it. Not that you're really interested, but being human, you're going to see it. Me personally, I like legs. So I'll be walking with Shanika. That was a part of what drew me to her, because she has some nice legs, right? So I'll be walking and I'll see a female and I'll be like, Shanika, her legs nicey.
I know.
And she knows. But if it is that you find yourself cloaking up, and then it starts to become more like a secret. You see the person and you're like, boy, a girl, her leg look nice, and you know, then believe it or not, you can be drawn into certain things because it's as if you're not in the real world. You keep telling yourself the ideals, oh, nothing can happen and whatever. I mean, I always tell people, if you're at a gas station, don't strike a match. I can relate to times. There have been times when, before she got to where she was now in her organization, and she was on the teller line, you know, you interact with a lot of persons in the banking hall. And so persons would just randomly come up and say, oh, this nice girl and whatever. And Shanika would call me at work. You have any time can talk? And I'm like, yes, what is it? You can imagine this man come at the see me wedding ring and he's like, can you get my number and so forth? So guess what? He offered to take me to lunch and I told him to make a booking for 3.
Yeah, me and my husband.
And she does that a lot.
Yes, yes, yes.
So, these things keep you invested and it reminds you every day that, look, it's the moment you step out of that and you're not reminded that you have a partner that you love and you are interested in, you will slip, because persons will come, they'll come in creative ways. They'll make offers, and trust me, you're human. Sometimes they'll watch you and probably watch when you're down, try to make you smile at that point. And if you're not careful, you may find yourself falling for these things. But there's one thing, we are very open, so I can tell you, if you say something to me, I can't wait to reach home because I'm gonna tell you.
I love that. You guys, well, you stated that she calls you during the day, whether to tell you what has transpired and things of that sort, right?
Right.
Throughout the day, what do you do to remind each other that you love each other?
He may
It
send me a
varies.
text.
I may send her a
sometimes
text. There are
he gets
times
mad.
when there's some little, I don't know if you have them there in the States, some ping pong balls. They're chocolate covered peanuts.
Oh, okay.
I'll just randomly swing by and buy her a little pack. I'll just run in, throw it on her desk.
And tell
I'll
me that
just
love is in it.
So there are lots of things. It doesn't, it's all encompassing. It doesn't take much to make somebody's day, because that chocolate covered peanut that I'm talking about is the equivalent of probably 30 cents US. But guess what? I know that every time I spend that 30 cents, is extremely happy. So if I want to make her happy, I spend $1, I buy 3.
Yes.
And in the short time we have left, maybe about 5 minutes, I have to squeeze in that question. You guys are pretty young.
Right.
When you are in the mood to make love and your partner is not in the mood at that time, how do you handle that? What do you do?
Well, that can sometimes be very frustrating for the other person. He's looking at me. He's looking at me. It can be very frustrating, but we have this policy. It is not mine. It is not his. It is ours. Everything is ours. So because he's in the mood and I'm not in the mood, don't mean that I should hold him hostage, right? Yeah. One, we're going to try to work with him, because it's not all, it can't be that every time that he's in the, it's not going to happen that every time he's in the mood, I am in the mood. So we try to get each other in the mood. If it work, it worked. If it don't work that time, we say, okay, at least we did try, but we're not going to leave it without trying. Okay. And we must also add that we have a child. We have a child that, and I tell you, you see, for couples, it is very important that you learn each other before you get a child. For us, we waited some time. We are married now for almost 9 years, and our child is now 4. That can be a problem too. We're very happy with our child and grateful for him. But what I'm saying, in terms of your relationship, sometimes children put up some blockers for you and some resistance because they have an alarm or some buzz bell or something that tells them when parents are in the mood and that they should come around at that time. And as a result, it may create a lot of blockage. It may create a lot of blockage, you know? And we have to find nice ways of dealing with that. Sometimes the ways is just precious memories.
Yeah.
How they linger.
Well, for me, in all honesty, initially in the relationship, it posed some real problems. That's just me speaking honestly.
And the men always can tell you how it poses real problems.
I mean, we're not upset, we're not in malice, but believe me, I remember that last night I was in the mood and boy, nothing happened.
And we can read each other and tell because in the morning you will wake up and how you realize that something off is when you tell the good morning, honey, and good morning. It's a bit robotic. You get to the response and you say, okay, I didn't do something right. Or probably I promise. Because I'm telling you, with children, sometimes you throw it off. You set the tone and the pace, from work. And you promise, you make your promise. And then you didn't deliver. Because for one reason or the other. And then it kind of leaves the person feeling of some type of way. Because we're humans, right?
Yes.
And you have to learn. But when you get that straight morning, I like it, so I now realize that I have to do something to fix the morning to make it not so straight.
Okay.
Initially, and I'm speaking to the young couples out there or the persons who are courting going into marriages.
Yes.
Initially, it was an issue, but I mean, it's something that you should give a lot of thought. And realize from early out that it's not just a lot. The fact of it, the truth of it is, intimacy was designed for us. In the right context, it's awesome. So God made no mistake when He made us with our urges and whatever, but He also expects that we will understand each other and we'll be able to strike up.
So considering your relationship, okay, what matters the most to you? We're going to end with that thought. What matters the most to the two of you?
I think what matters the most is his happiness, and that is one of the things that I think we both share. And I tell you, sometimes it can create a problem. You know what our problem now is? I am trying to say, no man, I'll accept your way. And then you say, no man, I'll accept your way. So everybody wants to make each other happy so that we're there. And we're saying, come on. You realize that we're basically heading in the same direction. And that's why it's important that God, you trust it, because the devil will use even the thing that you're trying to be positive in to try to bring about some conflict, because we're saying, oh, I'll take your point. No, I take your point. So we are basically giving off ourselves to make sure that the other person is okay. And that is one thing that I find that we do, and it helps us to remain happy and focused. Not that we don't have little issues, but they are not real issues or big enough to separate us.
Very nice. What about you, Ramado? What matters the most to you?
I'm trying to pinpoint something, but for me, well, let me put it this way. My favorite text in the Bible, I came across it some time ago. It's 1 Corinthians 13. It speaks about charity or love in that context. And I constantly run through that text where it says, it knows no envy, no malice, anything like that. And I think love is, well, the Bible says it, love is the greatest thing. It conquers all. If you truly love, then nothing will stand in the way. Because if you truly love, even if that person literally takes something and hits you, if you love that person, I'm not saying you're going to be a robot and you're just going to absorb it, but if you really love that person, then you'll be able to look beyond that. What I would say though, is that in relationships, companionship outside of everything else, it is really critical that you be a companion first and foremost. Lend a listening ear, even because there are times when I might come home and I'm calling some names at my workplace relating a story, and Shanika might be looking at me like I don't even know who that is.
But I'm listening.
But she listens, and it's the same thing. She comes home and from work and she's using her terms, her banking terms, and the GL this and the TT that, and I'm like, okay, those are just letters in the alphabet for me. But I'm listening.
Right.
So
Right.
being a companion first and foremost, I think that
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And
Well,
there's one thing too that we from marriage we said we'd never do. We have never seen where it was ever healthy. We will not stay away from each other. We haven't done it. We don't plan on doing it. And so I think the longest I've stayed away from my husband was probably 2 weeks. When, all right, he told you about when he wasn't working. So that summer, when I got vacation, he wasn't due any vacation as yet. And I took 10 days. And might I tell you, I love to travel. But that vacation was the longest in my entire life. I couldn't wait for the time to be finished for me to come back to him. We've always done vacations together. We are beside each other because we need to hold each other up. And so we don't take times from each other, and that helps us with our relationship.
Well, thank you very much for inviting us into your relationship. We have learned a whole lot, and I am certain that our viewers have learned a whole lot too. And I really do look at you guys as one of the ideal relationships that I have witnessed, or just, I'm just a part of right now. So thank you very much, and guys, we're gonna see you next time on All That Matters.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for having us.
Effective communication is one of the backbones of a healthy marriage. So, if you want your marriage to survive, learn how to talk and listen to each other. Here are 2 tips.
Number 1, it's not what you say, but how you say it. And number 2, I can't read your mind, so please, why don't you talk to me?
Till then, this has been All That Matters. See you next time.